The conference room floated in the silence of space, surrounded by stars that had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall. Inside Orbital Station Harmony 7, representatives from 47 different species sat in carefully designed chairs that accommodated their varied anatomies. The air was filtered to suit multiple respiratory systems, and the lighting was adjusted to a neutral spectrum that wouldn't offend anyone's eyes. Dr. Ji Woo stood at the back of the massive chamber, watching the presentations with growing unease. She was a tall woman with tired eyes and hands that had performed more surgeries than she cared to count. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple knot, and she wore the standard uniform of Earth's medical delegation. Beside her stood Dr. Hana, younger and more optimistic, taking notes on a digital tablet. The current speaker was a being called Vren, whose scales reflected the light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. He was discussing pain thresholds across different species, and his words made Jiwoo's stomach tighten with each passing moment. As you can see from the data, Vren said, his voice translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. Most civilized species have modified their neural pathways to minimize pain reception. The Korthan people reduced their pain sensitivity by 70% 3,000 years ago. The Hevran eliminated physical pain entirely through genetic modification. This is, of course, the logical progression of any advanced society. Hana leaned close to Jiwoo and whispered, "They all got rid of pain? All of them?" "Seems that way," Jiwoo replied quietly. Vren continued, bringing up a new holographic display. "However, we have discovered an anomaly. The human species possesses highly sophisticated nervous systems, advanced medical technology, and full understanding of genetic modification, yet they have chosen not to reduce their pain sensitivity. In fact, testing shows that humans can experience pain at levels that would cause most species to lose consciousness or die from shock." A murmur went through the crowd. Jiwoo felt dozens of eyes turning toward her, and the other human delegates scattered throughout the room. At the head of the chamber, Talmora rose from her seat. She was a graceful creature, covered in feathers that shifted colors with her emotions. As the lead counselor of galactic medicine, her words carried weight. "This is indeed troubling. We have reviewed Earth's medical records. Humans perform surgeries on each other. They give birth through biological processes that cause extreme pain. They engage in physical activities that regularly result in injury. And yet they refuse to implement the simple modifications that would eliminate this suffering." Jiwoo felt her jaw tighten. She had known this meeting might be difficult, but she hadn't expected to feel like humanity was on trial. Another representative stood up, a being made mostly of crystalline structures. "Perhaps they lack the technology. We could offer assistance in modifying their species." "No," Talmora said, her feathers turning a deep blue. "They have the technology. We have confirmed this. They choose not to use it." "Then they are primitives," Vren said bluntly. "Perhaps not ready for full integration into galactic society." Jiwoo's hand clenched at her side. Hana touched her arm gently, a silent plea for patience. Talmora's feathers rippled. "Before we make such judgments, I believe we should hear from the humans themselves. Dr. Jiwoo, you are Earth's chief medical representative. Can you explain why your species chooses to suffer unnecessarily?" All eyes turned to Jiwoo. She walked slowly down the aisle between the assembled aliens, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. When she reached the speaking platform, she took a moment to look at all the faces, feathers, scales, and stranger features watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to disgust. "You call it suffering," Jiwoo began, her voice steady. "We call it living. Explain," Talmora said simply. Jiwoo took a breath. "Pain is not just a signal that something is wrong. For humans, pain is a teacher. It's a reminder. It's a connection to our history and to each other. When you removed pain from your species, what else did you lose?" "We lost nothing," Vren said sharply. "We gained efficiency, longevity, and peace. Our people no longer fear injury. They no longer suffer. This is progress, is it?" Jiwoo met his eyes calmly. "Do your people still remember what it means to sacrifice for each other? Do they understand what it costs to save a life?" The chamber erupted in multiple languages, translation systems struggling to keep up with the sudden debate. Some species seemed offended by Jiwoo's words. Others appeared thoughtful. Talmora raised a wing and silence fell immediately. "These are philosophical questions, Dr. Jiwoo. We deal in medical science here." "They're not separate," Jiwoo insisted. Not for humans. Our medicine, our culture, our entire civilization is built on the foundation of people who chose to endure pain for the sake of others. You want to know why we don't eliminate pain? Because we remember what people suffered to bring us this far. Because we honor that sacrifice by not pretending it was easy or unnecessary. A small alien near the front, covered in soft fur, spoke up in a gentle voice. But surely you would save your people from pain if you could. If a child is hurt, you would not want them to suffer? Jiwoo's expression softened. Of course we treat pain. We have anesthesia. We have medicine. We have ways to manage and reduce suffering. But we don't eliminate the capacity to feel it. We don't cut it out of our genetics or our minds. Because pain is part of being human. It's part of caring about life enough to fight for it. This is madness, another delegate said. You're describing a species that tortures itself by choice. No. Hana spoke up from her position in the crowd, surprising everyone, including Jiwoo. We're describing a species that refuses to forget what it costs to survive, what it costs to care, what it costs to be worth saving. Talmora's feathers turned a contemplative shade of purple. She looked at Jiwoo for a long moment, then spoke. These are serious claims, Dr. Jiwoo. You suggest that pain has value beyond its immediate function. That suffering has shaped humanity into something unique. I'm saying that eliminating pain entirely might eliminate something essential, Jiwoo said. Something that makes us who we are. Friend made a dismissive sound. Primitive thinking. Romanticizing weakness. Perhaps, Jiwoo acknowledged. Or perhaps we've learned something from our history that you've forgotten in yours. Talmora raised both wings, a gesture that commanded absolute attention. I propose we give Dr. Jiwoo 24 hours to prepare a comprehensive presentation. She will show us Earth's medical history, their relationship with pain, and explain why humanity believes this approach has value. Then we will decide whether humans are simply stubborn primitives or whether they have discovered something the rest of the galaxy has overlooked. The chamber filled with discussion again. Some species clearly thought it was a waste of time. Others seemed genuinely curious. Will you accept this challenge, Dr. Jiwoo? Talmora asked. Jiwoo met the lead counselor's gaze. In Talmora's eyes, she saw something unexpected. A judgment, but genuine curiosity. Perhaps even hope. I accept, Jiwoo said. But I warn you now, what I show you will not be easy to watch. Human history is written in blood and tears and pain. If you truly want to understand us, you'll have to witness things that might disturb you. We are scientists, Talmora said, though her feathers had turned a darker shade. We can handle truth. We'll see, Jiwoo said quietly. As the meeting adjourned, Jiwoo walked back to where Hana waited. The younger woman looked excited and terrified at the same time. What are you going to show them? Hana asked. Jiwoo looked out the viewport at Earth, a small blue dot in the distance. Everything, she said. The whole bloody, beautiful, painful truth of what it means to be human. Somewhere in her memory, she could still hear the sound of a child crying in a war zone, still feel the weight of making someone hurt worse to save their life, still remember every patient who had looked at her with trust, despite knowing the pain that was coming. Tomorrow she would share all of that with species who had spent millennia hiding from such experiences. She wondered if they were ready. She wondered if she was ready. But ready or not, humanity's story deserved to be told. Jiwoo sat in her quarters, staring at a blank screen. 24 hours had seemed like enough time when she accepted the challenge. Now, with 18 hours remaining, she realized the impossible weight of what she had agreed to do. How could she explain thousands of years of human experience to beings who had deliberately erased similar experiences from their own history? Hana entered without knocking, carrying 2 cups of something that steamed and smelled like earth coffee. I brought supplies, she said, setting 1 cup in front of Jiwoo. And I've been thinking about your presentation. Any brilliant insights? Jiwoo asked, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. Show them the data first, Hana suggested. Raw numbers. Pain thresholds, recovery rates, survival statistics. Let them see that humans aren't just being stubborn. There's actual evidence that our approach works. Jiwoo nodded slowly. Data they can understand. Good start. Then hit them with the history, Hana continued, pulling up files on her tablet. I've been going through Earth's medical archives. Did you know that ancient humans performed brain surgery with stone tools? Without anesthesia? And some of the patients survived and healed? I know, Jiwoo said softly. I've seen the skulls. Multiple surgeries on the same person, healed over time. They kept going back, kept letting the healers cut into their heads because the alternative was death or madness. Hana's fingers moved across her tablet. And childbirth. Every species in the galaxy has either modified their reproduction to be painless, or they use complete medical sedation. But humans? We've known for centuries how painful it is. We pass down stories about it, mother to daughter, generation after generation, and we still choose to have children. Because the pain means something, Jiwoo said. It's the price we pay for new life. Will they understand that? Hana asked. These species who eliminated pain so long ago they can't remember what it felt like? Before Jiwoo could answer, the door chimed. Come in, she called. Captain Dong-hyun entered, his military uniform crisp despite the late hour. He was a solid man with gray hair and eyes that had seen combat. Behind him came Ambassador Kyung-mi, elegant and careful in her diplomatic robes. We heard you were preparing for tomorrow, Dong-hyun said. Thought you might want a soldier's perspective. Kyung-mi moved gracefully to a chair. And a diplomat's warning. Jiwoo gestured for them to sit. I'm listening. Dong-hyun leaned forward. I've trained soldiers from a dozen worlds. Coalition forces, joint operations. You know what I noticed? When things go bad, really bad, it's always the humans who keep moving. We take a hit that would drop any other species and we keep going. Not because we're stronger. We're not. But we know pain is temporary. We know we can push through it. You want me to show them military records? Jiwoo asked. I want you to show them what humans do when everything hurts and we choose to act anyway, Dong-hyun said. That's not primitive. That's power. Kyung-mi cleared her throat. And I want you to be very careful. Several council members are already afraid of humans. If you show them how much we can endure, how we function through pain that would incapacitate them, you might confirm their fears. They might decide we're too dangerous to fully integrate into galactic society. So I should hide what we are? Jiwoo asked. I'm saying be strategic, Kyung-mi replied. Show them the beauty in our resilience, not just the frightening aspects. Show them that our capacity for pain makes us better caregivers, better rescuers, better allies. Make them want humans on their side, not fear having us as potential enemies. Jiwoo stood and walked to the window. Earth was visible in the distance, a small sphere of blue and white. I can't lie to them. If I hide what we really are, we'll never be truly accepted. They'll always wonder what we're hiding. Then balance it, Kyung-mi suggested. For every example of humans enduring pain in war, show them enduring pain to save others. For every battle scar, show them a doctor who chose to feel a patient's pain rather than numb themselves to it. Hana pulled up a file. I found something. A recording from the colony disaster on Kepler Station. A human engineer named Sung-min stayed behind in a burning section to seal the breach. The heat was intense enough that his suit's pain suppressors overloaded. He felt everything. The recording has him talking the whole time, walking others through the repair process while his own body was being damaged. Did he survive? Dong-hyun asked. He did, Hana said. Spent 6 months in recovery, then went back to engineering. Jiwoo turned from the window. That's what they need to see. Not that we're invincible, that we choose to pay the price when it matters. Over the next several hours, they built the presentation together. Hana compiled medical data showing human recovery rates, adaptation to injury, and psychological resilience. Dong-hyun provided military records carefully selected to show humans protecting others rather than harming enemies. Kyung-mi helped craft the narrative, ensuring each example built toward a central theme. Jiwoo added the pieces that mattered most to her. She included recordings of surgeries from across human history, ancient operations with crude tools, medieval procedures without antiseptics, modern trauma surgeries where speed mattered more than comfort. And in each case, the patients who survived, who healed, who went on to live full lives. She added birth records, not just the medical statistics, but the stories. Women who chose to experience childbirth fully conscious, who wanted to feel every moment despite the pain. Mothers who passed down advice to daughters about managing labor, creating a chain of shared experience stretching back to humanity's earliest days. There were records of athletes who pushed their bodies past reasonable limits, not for glory, but to discover what humans were capable of. Scientists who experimented on themselves, accepting pain to advance medical knowledge. Explorers who ventured into hostile environments, knowing they would suffer, because curiosity and the drive to understand mattered more than comfort. As dawn approached on the station's artificial clock, Jiwoo looked at what they had assembled. It's not enough, she said quietly. The data doesn't capture what it means. The recordings don't explain why. Then tell them, Donghyun said simply. Tell them your story. Jiwoo shook her head. This isn't about me. Yes, it is, Hana said gently. It's about every human. That includes you. Jiwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to speak. When I was young, I volunteered with a medical group in a war zone. There was a child, maybe 6 years old, caught in a collapsed building. We found her after 3 days. Her leg was crushed, infected. We had to amputate in the field. No proper anesthesia, no sterile environment, just me and another doctor and this little girl who looked at us with complete trust. The room was silent. Even Kyung-mi, usually so composed, had tears in her eyes. She screamed, Jiwoo continued. She begged us to stop. But she also held still. This tiny child, in more pain than most adults could imagine, held still because she understood we were saving her life. Afterward, when it was done, she smiled at me. Smiled. And she said thank you. That's why, Hana whispered. That's why, Jiwoo agreed. Because pain doesn't destroy us. It teaches us what matters. That child grew up. She became a doctor too. She works in disaster zones now, helping others the way we helped her. She remembers the pain. She uses it to understand her patients better. Donghyun stood. Show them that tomorrow. Show them that pain isn't our weakness. It's what makes us strong enough to save each other. As the others left to get a few hours of rest, Jiwoo sat alone with her presentation. She added one final element, a simple statement that would appear at the end. Pain is the price of consciousness. We pay it willingly because the alternative is to be less aware, less alive, less human. She read it over several times, then closed her eyes. In a few hours, she would stand before the Galactic Medical Council and defend humanity's choice to feel everything, to suffer, to endure. She thought about all the humans who had come before her who had faced pain and kept going anyway. She thought about the doctors who felt their patients' suffering as their own, the mothers who birthed children in agony and called it worth it, the soldiers who took wounds protecting others, the explorers who risked everything for knowledge, the ordinary people who lived through daily pains, small and large, and called it life. Tomorrow she would show the galaxy what it meant to be human. She would show them the scars and the strength, the suffering and the survival. She would show them that pain was not humanity's curse but its secret power. And then they would judge whether that made humanity worthy of standing among the stars, or too dangerous to be allowed. The assembly hall was more crowded than the previous day. Word had spread through the station about the human doctor's presentation. Species that normally avoided the medical conferences had arrived, curious or concerned or both. Jiwoo could feel the weight of their attention as she walked to the central platform. Talmora's feathers were a neutral gray as she addressed the crowd. Dr. Jiwoo has prepared a presentation explaining humanity's relationship with pain. I remind everyone that we are here as scientists and medical professionals. We will observe with open minds. Jiwoo nodded her thanks and activated the holographic display. A three-dimensional model of the human nervous system appeared, rotating slowly above the platform. This is the human pain network, she began. As you can see, we have sophisticated sensory nerves throughout our entire body. We can feel temperature, pressure, chemical damage, and tissue injury with extreme precision. Our brains process this information and create the sensation we call pain. She zoomed in on specific neural pathways. We developed anesthesia over 200 years ago. We have genetic modification technology. We have neural interfaces. We possess every tool necessary to eliminate pain permanently from our species. She paused. We choose not to use them that way. Murmurs went through the crowd. Jiwoo continued before they could turn into objections. Let me show you why. The hologram changed, showing an ancient human skull. This skull is 7,000 years old. Notice these marks? She highlighted areas where the bone had been cut and healed. This individual underwent brain surgery, multiple times, without anesthesia, without antibiotics, without any of the tools we consider essential. The bone growth patterns show they survived each surgery and lived for years afterward. The image shifted to show more skulls, dozens of them, each bearing similar marks. These people knew the surgery would hurt. They remembered the previous surgeries. And they chose to undergo more procedures because living with the pain was better than living with the condition that threatened their lives. They made that choice consciously. A delegate near the front spoke up. This only proves they were desperate. Surely modern humans don't do such things. Jiwoo smiled slightly. You're right. Modern humans have better tools, but we still make the same choice. She brought up a new image, a video recording from a war-torn region on Earth. This is from 15 years ago. A medical camp in an active conflict zone. Watch. The video showed a field hospital. On a table, a young woman lay with a massive leg wound. 2 doctors worked over her. One of them was Jiwoo herself, younger but recognizable. We had limited anesthesia, Jiwoo narrated as her past self worked. Not enough for what needed to be done. I gave the patient a choice. Wait 3 days for more supplies while the wound got worse, or proceed with what we had. On screen, the young Jiwoo spoke to the patient. The woman on the table nodded, bit down on a cloth, and gripped the sides of the table. What followed made several aliens in the audience turn away. The patient screamed, but she held still. The surgery continued. When it was done, the woman smiled through tears and thanked the doctors. That woman is now a doctor herself, Jiwoo said. She works in similar conditions, helping others. She remembers her pain. She uses it to understand what her patients face. Bren stood abruptly. This is barbarism. You're proving my point. Humans torture each other and call it medicine. We save each other, Jiwoo corrected calmly. There's a difference. That woman would have died without surgery. She chose temporary pain over death. That's not barbarism. That's courage. She changed the display again. Let me show you something else. Human childbirth. A wave of discomfort moved through the aliens. Most species had made reproduction painless millennia ago. Some had eliminated biological birth entirely. The hologram showed statistical data. Human childbirth is one of the most painful biological processes known. The pain is intense, prolonged, and completely predictable. We've known about it for our entire history. We have the technology to eliminate it. Most human mothers choose not to. An alien with soft fur spoke gently. Why would anyone choose such suffering? Jiwoo pulled up recordings of births from across human history. Not graphic, but real. Women in labor, supported by family, by doctors, by partners. The sounds of pain, yes, but also something else. Determination. Focus. And then, when it was over, joy. Because pain isn't the whole story, Jiwoo said. It's part of a larger experience. These women chose to feel everything because being fully present for their child's birth mattered more than comfort. The pain became part of the bond, part of the memory, part of the love. She showed interviews with mothers, generations of them, talking about their experiences. Each one acknowledged the pain. None of them regretted choosing to feel it. We pass these stories down, Jiwoo explained. Mother to daughter, generation to generation. We don't hide from the reality of it. We prepare for it, we support each other through it, and we honor it as the price of creating new life. Talmora's feathers had turned a deep blue, the color of deep thought. You're suggesting pain creates meaning. I'm showing you that humans find meaning in pain, Jiwoo clarified. We don't seek it out randomly. But when pain is the cost of something important, we pay it willingly. She brought up new images. Athletes pushing their bodies to extremes. Climbers ascending mountains in freezing conditions. Marathon runners completing races despite injury. Soldiers carrying wounded comrades despite their own wounds. You might call this foolish, Jiwoo said. Why climb a mountain when you could fly over it? Why run until your body breaks when you could simply not? But humans don't do these things because they're easy. We do them because difficulty has value. Because overcoming pain teaches us what we're capable of. The next series of images showed human medical volunteers throughout history. Doctors and nurses working in plague zones, in war zones, in disaster areas. Many of them got sick or injured themselves. Many of them died. These people chose to enter painful situations to help others, Jiwoo said. They felt the fear. They felt the pain. They knew the risks. And they went anyway because someone needed to. She showed recordings of rescue workers pulling people from collapsed buildings, their own hands bleeding. Firefighters running into burning structures, feeling the heat through their protective gear. Deep-sea rescuers working in crushing pressure and cold. Space rescue teams operating in the void, where every sensation was filtered through suit sensors that couldn't completely protect them. In every case, humans chose to feel pain to save others, Jiwoo said. We could design suits that numb all sensation. We could modify our nervous systems to feel nothing. But then we wouldn't feel the heat warning us we're too close to the fire. We wouldn't feel the pressure telling us we're going too deep. We wouldn't feel the cold reminding us our time is limited. She paused, letting that sink in. Pain keeps us honest. It reminds us that actions have consequences, that other people's suffering is real. That rescue has a cost and we pay it willingly. The assembly was silent now, watching with an intensity that Jiwoo could feel. She brought up her final images. I want to show you one more thing, she said. These are memorials. Humans build them to remember people who died saving others. We have tens of thousands of them across Earth in our colonies. The hologram showed monuments, statues, walls covered in names. Each one commemorated humans who had chosen pain, danger, death to protect others. We could forget, Jiwoo said quietly. We could erase the memories, numb the grief, eliminate the pain of loss. Instead, we build monuments. We tell stories. We remember names. We pass down the histories of people who suffered for others because we believe that suffering meant something. She looked directly at Talmora. You asked why humans don't eliminate pain. This is why. Because pain is the price we pay for consciousness, for awareness, for caring deeply enough about life that we're willing to fight for it. Pain reminds us what matters. It teaches us empathy. It shows us what we're capable of enduring and what's worth enduring for. The final image appeared in the hologram. Simple text that read, pain is not humanity's weakness. It is our strength. It is what makes us worth saving, and what makes us willing to save others. Jiwoo stepped back from the platform. The assembly hall was completely silent. She could see shock on some faces, disgust on others, and on a few, something that might have been understanding. Bren was the first to speak, his voice harsh. This is exactly what I feared. Humans don't just tolerate pain. They embrace it. They romanticize suffering. This makes them unpredictable, dangerous, or necessary, a small voice said. Kaitesh, the insectoid representative, stood up. My species also remembers pain. We also sacrifice individuals for the hive. Perhaps we have more in common with humans than we thought. The assembly erupted into debate. Species argued in dozens of languages. Translation systems working overtime. Some agreed with Vren that humans were dangerous. Others saw value in what Jiwoo had shown. Through it all, Jiwoo stood quietly watching Talmora. The lead counselor's feathers shifted through colors, processing what she had seen. Finally, she raised her wings for silence. We will break for deliberation, Talmora announced. But first, I have a question for Dr. Jiwoo. Her eyes met Jiwoo's across the chamber. Do you regret it? The pain you felt, the suffering you've witnessed. If you could go back and eliminate it all, would you? Jiwoo didn't hesitate. No, because that pain made me who I am. It taught me what I would fight for. It connected me to every patient I've ever treated, every person I've ever tried to save. Without it, I'd be less capable of understanding suffering, and therefore less capable of healing it. Talamora's feathers turned pure white, the color of revelation. Thank you, Dr. Jiwoo. You have given us much to consider. As the assembly dispersed, Jiwoo felt Hana at her side. That was incredible, the younger woman whispered. It was the truth, Jiwoo replied. Now we see if truth is enough. The assembly hall had transformed into something closer to a battleground. Representatives from 47 species argued with an intensity that made the translation systems struggle to keep up. Jiwoo sat in the human delegation area, watching species that had coexisted peacefully for centuries suddenly find themselves on opposite sides of a fundamental question. Were humans admirably resilient or dangerously unstable? Vren stood at the center of a group of reptilian and crystalline species, his scales flashing with agitation. We must be realistic about what we've witnessed. Humans don't just tolerate pain. They seek it out. They create situations where pain is inevitable. This is not rational behavior. This is not the mark of a stable species. A tall being made of flowing energy patterns responded. They showed examples of medical necessity and rescue operations. How is saving lives irrational? Because there are always alternatives, Ren insisted. Automated rescue systems, remote-controlled medical procedures, genetic modifications that would make dangerous environments safe. Humans choose the path of suffering when easier solutions exist. Talmora watched from her elevated position, her feathers cycling through colors too quickly to read. She had called for this extended debate session, wanting to hear all perspectives before making any decisions. Jiwoo appreciated the fairness even as she felt the weight of judgment pressing down on her species. Hana leaned close. Should you say something? Defend us? Not yet, Jiwoo murmured. Let them talk it through. If I interrupt now, they'll think we're defensive. A delegate from the Hivran Collective spoke up, their multiple voices harmonizing. We must consider the implications for galactic security. If humans can function through pain that would incapacitate any other species, what does that mean in conflict situations? They would have an enormous advantage. Or they would be valuable allies, Kitesh countered. The insectoid representative had become an unexpected voice of support. My people understand sacrifice. The individual suffers so the hive survives. Humans do the same, but each individual makes the choice consciously. This is not weakness. A furred delegate stood, speaking softly. But is it healthy? The psychological impact of constant pain awareness. The trauma of remembering suffering. We eliminated pain partially for mental health reasons. Our people suffered psychological damage from pain memory. How do humans cope? All eyes turned to Jiwoo. She stood slowly and moved to the speaking area. May I respond? Talmora gestured assent. Humans do experience psychological effects from pain, Jiwoo admitted. We have conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder. We have pain-related anxiety. We have depression linked to chronic suffering. We don't pretend pain is easy or simple. Then why not eliminate it? The furred delegate asked genuinely. Because we developed other solutions, Jiwoo explained. Therapy. Support systems. Communities that help people process trauma. We learned that pain itself isn't what breaks people. Isolation breaks people. Meaningless suffering breaks people. But pain that's understood, that's supported, that's connected to purpose, that can be endured and even transformed into strength. She pulled up data on her tablet. We have psychological studies spanning centuries. Humans who experienced and overcame pain often report stronger emotional resilience, greater empathy, and deeper appreciation for life. Not all pain, not all suffering, but chosen pain, meaningful pain, shared pain. These create connections between people that comfort never could. Vren made a dismissive sound. You're arguing that suffering improves mental health. That's absurd. I'm arguing that avoiding all discomfort creates fragility. Jiwoo corrected. Your species eliminated pain 3,000 years ago. How do your people handle unexpected hardship now? When something genuinely difficult happens, do they have the psychological tools to cope? The chamber went quiet. Vren's scales lost their aggressive color. Talmora spoke into the silence. That is an interesting question, Dr. Jiwoo. One we should perhaps explore further. She looked at Vren. Your people's recent colony failure. The report cited unexpected environmental stress as a factor. Multiple colonists suffered psychological collapse when conditions became mildly uncomfortable. That was an isolated incident, Vren said quickly. Was it? Kitesh asked. My people have observed similar patterns across multiple species. Those who have eliminated discomfort entirely often struggle when confronted with unavoidable challenges. Another delegate stood. Are you suggesting we should restore pain to our species? Return to primitive suffering? No, Jiwoo said firmly. What works for humans won't necessarily work for others. Your species made choices that suited your needs, but perhaps those choices came with costs you haven't fully acknowledged. She walked slowly around the speaking platform. Humans aren't perfect. Our approach to pain isn't objectively better than yours, but it's ours. It's shaped our culture, our medicine, our understanding of what it means to live. And yes, it makes us different. Maybe that difference makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it even frightens you. But different isn't dangerous, isn't it? Vren challenged. A species that doesn't fear pain won't fear consequences, won't honor treaties, won't respect boundaries. Captain Dong-hyun stood from the human delegation area. Permission to speak? Talmora nodded. Dong-hyun moved to join Jiwoo. I'm a military officer. I've fought alongside dozens of species. You want to know what humans do in war? We volunteer for the dangerous assignments. We take point on the risky missions. And you know what else? We're the first to offer medical aid to wounded enemies. We're the ones who risk our lives to rescue prisoners. We feel pain so we understand it in others. We don't fear pain, so we can act even when action hurts. He looked directly at Vren. Your fear isn't that we'll ignore consequences. Your fear is that we'll accept consequences you can't imagine accepting. That makes you feel vulnerable, not superior. The chamber erupted again. Some species objected to Dong-hyun's directness. Others seemed to consider his words seriously. Ambassador Kyung-mi stood and spoke over the noise. May I suggest we're asking the wrong question? The issue isn't whether humans should eliminate pain. That decision is ours to make. The question is whether our choice to retain pain makes us unsuitable for galactic society. And I would argue the evidence suggests the opposite. She gestured to Jiwoo. Dr. Jiwoo showed you humans saving lives in conditions no other species could tolerate. That's not a threat to you. That's a resource. When disasters happen in environments too harsh for pain-sensitive species, wouldn't you want humans available to help? She makes a valid point, Talmora said thoughtfully. Humans have already participated in several galactic rescue operations. Their performance in difficult conditions has been exceptional. Because they don't feel pain properly, Vren muttered. Because they feel it and act anyway, Kitesh corrected. There's a difference. Talmora raised her wings for quiet. I believe we need a recess. This debate could continue for days. I propose we adjourn and reconvene tomorrow for a final decision. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The emergency lights activated, bathing everything in red. A voice came over the intercom in multiple languages. Emergency alert. Mining accident on asteroid station Kepler-7. Multiple casualties. Toxic gas leak. Structural instability. All available medical personnel respond immediately. Jiwoo was already moving toward the exit before the announcement finished. Hana rushed after her, grabbing medical supplies. Donghyun signaled to his security team. Talmora flew down from her perch. Wait, we should coordinate response. No time, Jiwoo said, not slowing down. People are hurt. The environment is toxic, one of the delegates called out. The pain from exposure will be extreme. Jiwoo looked back over her shoulder. I know, she kept running. Behind her, she heard Talmora speaking to the other delegates. I'm going with them. Anyone else who wishes to observe, follow now. The group that assembled at the emergency transport was diverse. Jiwoo and Hana, Donghyun with 5 human security personnel, Talmora, Kitesh, and surprisingly, Vren. I'm a medical professional, Vren said when Jiwoo looked at him. Whatever our disagreements, I don't abandon people in need. Jiwoo nodded respect. Then let's go. The transport ride to Kepler-7 took 12 minutes. In that time, they received updates. 37 workers trapped in a collapsed section, toxic fumes spreading, temperature extremes, radiation spikes. The list of hazards grew with each report. Other rescue teams from various species were already arriving, but one by one they reported the same problem. The environmental conditions were beyond their pain tolerance. Their personnel couldn't function in that level of discomfort. The transport docked. Jiwoo could see the disaster through the viewport. Fire and smoke, twisted metal, and somewhere in that nightmare people who needed help. Everyone stays in protective gear, Donghyun ordered. We work in teams. No one goes alone. Jiwoo checked her suit seals. The suit would protect her from immediate death, but it couldn't block everything. The heat would get through. The chemical burns would happen. The radiation would be felt. She looked at Hana. You don't have to do this. Hana met her eyes. Yes, I do. That's what you've been trying to explain to them, isn't it? We choose this. Talmora approached. I will observe from a safe distance. I need to see this. You might see things you wish you hadn't, Jiwoo warned. Talmora's feathers were steel gray. I know. The airlock opened. The human team moved forward into conditions that would have sent any other species running. And behind them, watching from safety, the representatives of the Galactic Medical Council witnessed what it really meant when humans chose to feel everything and act anyway. The real test was beginning. The heat hit Jiwoo the moment she entered the damaged section of Kepler-7. Even through the protective suit, she could feel it. Not enough to cause immediate damage, but enough to hurt. Enough to make every breath a conscious decision. Her suit, sensors showed toxic chemical levels that would cause severe pain to exposed skin, radiation readings that would make most species turn back. She kept moving forward. I have life signs, Hana called through the communication system. Section C, beneath the collapsed support beam. Donghyun was already coordinating his team. Young-A Sungmin with me. We'll clear the debris. Doctor, be ready for casualties. Jiwoo moved toward the life signs, her medical scanner active. Behind her, she was aware of Talmora watching from the safe observation area. The lead counselor had positioned herself where she could see everything through the station's camera feeds and the open airlock. The first survivor was a Korthan worker trapped under metal debris. His large eyes were filled with fear and pain. Jiwoo knelt beside him, assessing quickly. Crushed leg, Possible internal injuries. He needed immediate treatment. "I'm Dr. Jiwoo," she said calmly. "We're getting you out." "It hurts," the Korthan whispered. His species had reduced pain sensitivity, but they hadn't eliminated it entirely. "I know," Jiwoo said. "Stay with me." Sung Min, a compact human engineer with steady hands, began cutting through the metal, pinning the Korthan. The cutting torch sent sparks flying. Some landed on Sung Min's suit, creating small burns where the material had worn thin. He flinched but didn't stop working. Through the communication channel, Jiwoo could hear other rescue teams from various species reporting their status. Most had pulled back. The environmental conditions were too severe. Only the humans were still advancing into the worst areas. "We have multiple casualties in Section D," another voice reported. "Can't reach them. The heat is too intense." "We're on it," Dong-hyun responded. He looked at Jiwoo. "Doctor, we need to split up. You stay with this one. I'll take Young A to Section D." Jiwoo nodded, already focused on stabilizing the Korthan. The metal came free, and she immediately began treating the crushed leg. The worker cried out in pain. Jiwoo worked quickly, efficiently, her hands steady despite the heat making her own fingers ache inside her gloves. Hana appeared with another survivor, a smaller being from a crystalline species. The creature was cracked, leaking fluids that Jiwoo recognized as their version of blood. "This one needs immediate sealing," Hana said. "But the medical foam will hurt when it sets." "Do it," Jiwoo ordered. "Fast setting. We don't have time for the slow option." Hana applied the foam. The crystalline being made a sound like breaking glass, a cry of agony. But Hana held firm, ensuring the seal was complete. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. But this will save you." From the observation area, Talmora watched in silence. She could see the readings showing the environmental conditions the humans were working in. Heat that would cause pain to any organic being, chemicals that would burn exposed skin, radiation that would make nerve endings scream. And yet the humans continued. Not because they couldn't feel it. She could see them wince, hear them gasp, watch them push through discomfort that would have stopped any other species. "Section E is collapsing," a panicked voice came through. "3 workers trapped. The ceiling is coming down." Before anyone could respond, Young A's voice cut through. "I see them. Going in." "Wait for support," Dong-hyun ordered. "No time," Young E said. Jiwoo could hear the sounds of running, debris falling. Young E's breathing harsh through her mask. "I've got them. 2 Hivran, 1 human. Ceiling won't hold. Need immediate extraction." Dong-hyun made a decision. "Sungmin, get that support beam in place. Now." What followed happened in seconds that felt like hours. Sungmin ran into Section E with a portable support beam. The heat in that area was extreme, beyond what the suits were rated for. Young E was already pulling workers out. Her own suit showing damage, her arms showing burns where the material had failed. The ceiling groaned. Sungmin positioned the beam, his hands shaking from the heat. The beam locked into place. The ceiling held. "Barely." "Everyone out," Dong-hyun ordered. "This whole section is going." They moved fast. Young Ai half-carried one of the Hivran workers. Sungmin supported the human casualty. Dong-hyun covered their retreat, watching for falling debris. They made it through the airlock just as Section E collapsed behind them. In the main rescue area, Jiwoo was finishing with the Korthan when Young E stumbled in. The human medic was burned badly on both arms. Her face showed pain clearly. But she was still carrying the Hivran worker. "Patient first," Young A said when Jiwoo moved toward her. "Sit down," Jiwoo ordered. "That's not a request." Young A obeyed, finally allowing herself to show the full extent of her pain. Her burns were serious, 2nd degree covering both forearms. She must have been in agony for the entire rescue. "Why didn't you say something?" Hana asked, beginning treatment. "Because people needed help," Young E said simply. "The pain wasn't going to kill me. Leaving them would have killed them." Talmora had moved closer, her feathers cycling through colors rapidly. She was close enough now to hear the humans talking, to see their injuries, to understand what they were enduring. Dong-hyun's voice came through the communication system. We've cleared Section C and E. Section D is still active. Vren, your team had visual on those casualties. Can you give me a route? There was a pause. Then Vren's voice, strained. I attempted to enter Section D. The atmospheric conditions are beyond tolerable limits. Even with full suit protection, the pain is too severe. I cannot continue. No judgment in his voice, just honesty. Vren had tried, pushed to his limit, and found it. Understood, Dong-hyun said. Human team, we're going in. Sungmin, you're with me. Doctor, we're going to bring you casualties. I'll be ready, Ji-woo said. She looked at Young-hee. The medic's burns were treated, but she was clearly still hurting. You're done, Ji-woo said firmly. No, I'm not. Young-hee stood up carefully. You're going to need help with multiple casualties. I can still work. You're injured. I'm functional, Young-hee corrected. That's what matters right now. Talmora spoke for the first time since the rescue began. You would continue working. While in pain? Young-hee looked at the alien with surprise, as if just remembering they had an audience. Yes, that's what doctors do. But why? Talmora asked. You've already done more than anyone expected. You could rest now. Because there are still people in there, Young-hee said. My pain doesn't change that. If I can help, I help. That's what being human means. The next hour was the hardest work Ji-woo had ever done. Dong-hyun and Sungmin brought out casualty after casualty from Section D. Some were conscious, screaming in pain. Some were unconscious, which was almost worse. Ji-woo worked on them. Methodically, Hana and Young-hee assisting despite their own injuries. At one point, Ji-woo had to perform an emergency surgery on one of Vren's colleagues, a reptilian being with severe internal injuries. The only option was to operate immediately, in the field, with minimal anesthesia. The patient was conscious and aware. So was Ji-woo, who had sustained a fractured arm when debris had fallen near her. She worked with one arm damaged, using it when necessary despite the pain shooting up to her shoulder. The patient watched her with terrified eyes. I know it hurts, Ji-woo said, her voice steady even as sweat dripped down her face. For both of us. But we're going to get through this together. She finished the surgery. The patient survived. Ji-woo allowed Hana to quickly splint her arm, then returned to work. Talmora watched it all. Every moment. Every wince. Every time a human pushed through pain that should have stopped them. And she began to understand. Finally, 3 hours after the rescue began, Dong-hyun's voice came through. Section D is clear. All survivors evacuated. We're coming out. The final count was 37 workers rescued. All alive. Many seriously injured, but none beyond help. The only rescue team that had been able to operate in the worst conditions had been the humans. As the emergency transports arrived to take the casualties to proper medical facilities, Talmora approached Ji-woo. The doctor was sitting against a wall, her splinted arm cradled against her chest, her face showing clear signs of exhaustion and pain. You are injured, Talmora observed. I'll heal, Ji-woo said. Why did you continue working after your injury? Ji-woo looked at her arm, then back at Talmora. Because I could. The arm was broken, not useless. People needed help. So I helped, even though it hurt. Especially because it hurt, Ji-woo said. The pain kept me focused, kept me aware of my limitations. If I couldn't feel it, I might have done more damage. Pain is information. I used it. Talmora's feathers turned pure white again. I need to tell you something. My species eliminated pain 3,000 years ago. We believed it was the path to enlightenment, to civilization. But watching you today, I realize what we lost. What did you lose? Ji-woo asked quietly. The ability to choose, Talmora said. You see, when we removed pain, we removed the choice to endure it. We can no longer do what you did today. When conditions become uncomfortable, we must retreat. We have no choice, but you felt everything and chose to stay. That's not weakness. That's the purest form of strength. She looked back at the rescue site. We thought eliminating pain made us superior. But it just made us comfortable. You humans retained pain and it made you capable. Capable of sacrifice. Capable of choosing others over yourselves. Capable of being truly brave. Ji-woo was quiet for a moment. Then she said, it's not about being better or worse. Different species need different things. But for humans, pain is part of our story. It's part of what we are. Talmora nodded slowly. Tomorrow the Council will vote on humanity's place in galactic society. After what I witnessed today, I know what my vote will be. Humans don't belong in galactic society despite your relationship with pain. You belong because of it. Because when everyone else must turn back, humans will keep going. Because when the cost is high, humans will pay it. Because pain doesn't stop you from caring. It teaches you what's worth caring about. She extended a wing in the traditional gesture of respect. Dr. Jiwoo, on behalf of the Galactic Medical Council, I formally request that humans serve as primary first responders for high-risk rescue operations. You have proven that you possess abilities no other species can match, not because you're stronger, but because you're willing to suffer for others. Jiwoo accepted the gesture using her good arm. We don't do it for recognition. We do it because it's right. I know, Talmora said. That's exactly why we need you. The next day in the assembly hall, the vote was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in galactic society. More than that, they were honored. A new division was created, the Galactic Emergency Response Force, with humans forming its core. Other species would serve alongside them. But everyone understood the truth. When conditions were impossible, when pain was unavoidable, when someone needed to act despite the cost, humanity would be there. Jiwoo stood at the ceremony, her arm still in a splint, receiving recognition she didn't want but accepted gracefully. Beside her stood Youngie, Sungmin, Hana, and Donghyun. Behind them, every human in the station representing a species that had chosen to remember pain rather than forget it. Talmora made the final speech. Today we acknowledge what humanity has taught us. That pain is not weakness, that suffering can have meaning, that the choice to endure, to push forward, to sacrifice oneself for others is perhaps the highest form of consciousness. Humans asked us why we fear pain. We asked them why they don't. The answer is simple. They don't fear pain because they fear something more. They fear the person they would become if they chose comfort over compassion, safety over service, peace over purpose. She looked directly at Jiwoo. We asked why humans don't fear pain. The doctor handed us history books. But more than that, she showed us the living truth. Pain doesn't make you weak. The choice to feel it, to use it, to push through it for others, that's what makes you strong. In the crowd, Vren stood. His scales were a muted color, humble. I was wrong, he said simply. I called humans primitive. I called them dangerous. But I watched a human doctor operate with a broken arm to save my colleague. I watched humans run into environments that I couldn't tolerate. They're not dangerous to us. They're dangerous only to obstacles, to disasters, to anything that threatens those they've chosen to protect. He looked at Jiwoo. I apologize for my judgment, and I request permission to study under human medical teams. I want to understand what we lost when we eliminated pain. Perhaps it's too late to restore it to my species. But perhaps we can learn other lessons from you. Jiwoo bowed slightly. You're welcome anytime. The ceremony concluded. Celebrations began, but Jiwoo slipped away quietly, finding a viewport that showed Earth in the distance. Hana found her there. You did it, Hana said. You proved humanity deserves a place among the stars. We proved we're willing to pay the price, Jiwoo corrected. That's different from deserving. Every species deserves their place. We just showed what price we're willing to pay for ours. Do you think they really understand now? Hana asked. Jiwoo thought about Talamora's words. About Vren's apology. About the way the other species had looked at the human rescue team after the disaster. I think they're starting to. They asked why we don't fear pain. We showed them it's because we fear something more. We fear being the kind of people who could ignore suffering. We fear choosing comfort over conscience. We fear forgetting that pain is the price of caring deeply enough to act. She touched the splint on her arm, feeling the dull ache beneath it. Our history books are written in pain, in sacrifice, in people who chose to suffer so others wouldn't have to. That's what being human means. And now the galaxy knows it too. Hana smiled. So what happens next? Jiwoo looked at the stars. Next, we do what humans have always done. We show up when it hurts. We help when it costs us. We remember what matters. And we teach anyone willing to learn that pain isn't the enemy. Fear of pain is the enemy. And humanity stopped being afraid a long time ago. In the distance, Earth turned slowly. A small blue world that had given birth to a species strange and wonderful. A species that felt everything and chose to act anyway. A species that would rather hurt than hide. a species that understood the simple truth the galaxy had forgotten. Pain was the price of consciousness, and humanity paid it gladly, because being fully alive, fully aware, fully human was worth any cost.